What's up, everybody? Coach Ben here with Jim from Jiu-Jitsu Magazine. We're going to first recap the weekend events. We got UFC, we got Fight to Win, and then we're going to do a betting analysis afterwards of the Who's Number One that is happening this Friday. We also have some breaking news. So what's up, Jim?
Yeah, so without further ado, you just named it all. There was a lot of good action, jiu-jitsu action, even in the MMA realm of the UFC. And let's go, Coach. Start breaking this stuff down.
Yeah, so let's do the recap first for Fight to Win 148 on Friday, last Friday. So if you guys have read my betting analysis article, you can find it at jujitsumag.com or just on the YouTube. We talked about it last week in the same format of the show. I talked about these three matches, right? Victor Hugo versus Max Gimenez, Keenan versus Mathias Luna, and then Kendall Reusing versus Brittany Elkin, right? So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I just want to just recap and get it over with. There were three matches that pretty much were let me just be transparent. They were squash matches. They were guys that were heavily favored. I believe as soon as we released the lines, Victor Hugo went from minus 400 to like minus 600 immediately, right? And, you know, we've been talking about Victor Hugo forever. He gets the win. It took him a while. Max gave him some trouble. You know, Max did a great job. We underestimated Max's strength. But Victor eventually does take his back. And, I mean, just Victor's so strong and athletic. Once he didn't even finish with a rear naked choke. He finished with the gable grip, short choke, and not even under the chin. It was just across the neck. I mean, but a guy like that's pulling on your neck, you got to tap.
Yeah.
You know, I felt that over the weekend training with some of my guys, and I was like, oh, man, my neck still feels it. So, anyway, Victor Hugo, giant favorite. You know, I don't recommend people that watch the show listen to this piece of advice. I'm going to, not advice, this thing that I'm going to tell you, but I did bet Victor at minus 500, I think, which is, you know, I thought that line should have been minus 1,000 at least, and that's why I bet it, because there was value there in my opinion. But unless you have a big bankroll or, you know, you can take a loss like that, it's not really smart to bet 5 units on a minus 500 guy because anything can happen. You know, I always tell people, you know, they could fall off the stage. You know, he could show up sick. You know, Max could have hit something crazy. You know, he could get injured. You know, who knows? So, but anyway, just to be transparent, I did put 5 units on Victor Hugo to win 1 unit. So 500 to win 100, right? And, you know, it worked out for me, but it's a risky thing. I don't like to tip those things because it's a gamble. You know, it's a gamble, you know. But end of the day, Victor does win. I do think the line was, you know, there was value on the line. So Victor wins. Secondly, Keenan versus Mathias Luna. This is a dangerous match for Keenan because Mathias actually did really well. He went to 50-50, you know, stalled the match a little bit. Keenan did some beautiful lapel stuff. You know, if you like lapel stuff, you need to watch this match. I don't even know what he did, but really nice stuff. And he ends up winning judge's decision. I said that Keenan was going to win by submission. He almost got the knee bar, but he ends up winning judge's decision. Pretty clear, unanimous. And yes, I did bet Keenan too at, I think, minus 400. So I put 4 units on Keenan to win 1 unit. Another thing, I don't like to tip, but I just had ultimate. I thought Keenan probably should have been a minus 700 in this. You know, closing, not opening lines. You got to give a little wiggle room for people to, you know, get their money in. But I thought he should have closed around there. And, you know, grappling is new, so we're not trying to set the lines where they're so insane right now that nobody really wants to bet. You know, we're trying to get action. We're trying to grow it. And then the lines will probably get tightened up. So this is a great opportunity. You know, Jim, you should lay down some money, but I know you haven't yet. All right. So far, you know, you can just, using these stats, you can go through how much risk I'm putting up, right? It's quite a lot to win very little, right? So you got to be sure, right? So far I put $900 on the line to win $200. You know, that's not a, you know, if these were coin flips, we would be in trouble here, right? But again, I just had a lot of confidence. Mathias did great, you know, dangerous match. I would say that was the match where if anybody could have pulled an upset based on, in hindsight, Mathias could have been the guy. So anyway, Keenan wins. Next, Kendall versus Brittany. This match I think was it was a bit of a mismatch, but Brittany did really well. Came up with some reversals. There just wasn't any offense from Brittany. And Kendall gets the guillotine with like 10 seconds left. She wins pretty decisively. She would have won a unanimous judge's decision. She had the position. She's just a higher caliber grappler at this point. Brittany's a better fighter, but Kendall, pure grappling, she's just better. And so, yeah, I put 1 unit on Kendall. I believe Kendall was also like a minus 400. So I put 5 units on
minus
Kendall.
3, yeah,
3 or 4.
Closing.
Yeah, I didn't get. You couldn't get these openers that I set. It was just, I don't even think they opened this high. They opened much lower than I even set. So, which is good. The books are smart. So, anyway, you can see, I risked quite a lot. Like something close to like 1,500 to win 300. It's a big risk. But again, I just thought these three competitors, it would be very hard for them to lose. And I was lucky, and I assumed correctly this time. All right, let's move on. Okay, so Fight to Win, great card. We want to get the betting lines up every weekend for Fight to Win. So check Bet DSI, check Bet Online. Message them, tell them you want grappling odds to be on there, and that will really help our cause and growing the sport. This COVID thing still going on. We don't have any ways to really grow the sport, grow the economy of the sport. So this is what we're doing now, and we have good support from the organizers. Submission Underground, Fight to Win. Seth works with us, so we're building steam. So just let's keep doing it, right? All right. Also, we want to recap. Did you watch UFC, Jim?
I did.
Did you see the earlier fights?
I did.
You didn't?
I did.
You did? Okay.
I did.
Let's start from I highlighted all the grappling stuff, and we'll talk a little bit about betting too, because betting is in here, but I really want to highlight the grappling stuff because we're Jiu-Jitsu magazine. Movsar Evloev. Did you watch this guy's match with Mike Grundy?
I'm trying to remember which one this was.
The guy that was stuck into that Darce.
In the Darce, and he escaped the Darce. It was deep.
I've never seen a Darce that deep with your neck bent like this with the leg hook, and he escaped.
Oh.
It was a short arm Darce, though, Jim. You remember? It was not a full triangle.
Right. It wasn't quite locked in.
That Woodley got on Till. And so Evloev, he's caught. I mean, he's like 1 second from being asleep, and he just powers out. He does some kind of corkscrew
with
escape.
His hips. Yeah,
he frees his leg. I posted a clip of this, and it was amazing.
Yeah, let's rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
When you talk about the position, the reason why it should have been over is he had that one leg that was hooked over the top, and he was able to free that leg.
Grundy hooked the wrong leg.
Grundy, he hooked the bottom leg.
You need to hook the top leg.
Got to hook the top leg.
The bottom leg, when you hook in a Darce, is not bad. It still could finish.
Yes.
But the problem is the other guy now can flatten himself and take a little bit of pressure out. And what he did was he flattened himself, used his free leg to kick the trapped leg away, and then corkscrewed, basically did like a bridge and roll. And Grundy, since he didn't have the full Darce, he only had like the short arm Darce, and there's sweat, he just slipped. It was too much force. If he had those guys are listening.
So explain for the people who are just listening.
All right.
The short arm as opposed to a long arm.
So when you do a Darce, right, you can either grab like a rear naked choke kind of grip where you're, here, where you're grabbing
one hand's on the biceps.
Mm-hmm. That's the most secure Darce grip in my opinion. Because why? Because your forearm is blocking where they need to go, right? Now, sometimes you also shoot in and you can't lock the full Darce in. So, you're here, you can't get to the biceps. So instead, if you have a short arm, you just go to the like
forearm.
Your forearm. Mm-hmm. Now this is okay,
just
right?
below the elbow joint,
but it's weaker. It's weaker. Structurally, it's weaker. You're not. It's just like a triangle. A fully locked triangle is going to be structurally more sound than a triangle locked. Kind of not full. It's not locked in the crook of the joint, which case would be the elbow. So anyway. That I think that was the thing. I had money on Grundy. Grundy was a big underdog. I was already celebrating. And I'm never going to bet against Evloev again, to be honest. This guy is good. Like, did you watch the rest of that fight?
I did. Yeah, and then he just dismantled him.
He's a better wrestler. Like, I mean, not necessarily a better wrestler, but he knew enough wrestling to hand fight, and it was just a wrestling clinic. You know, that was one of the best shows of wrestling exchanges I've ever seen in a UFC fight. So anyway, Mavsar, shout out, great job. Next, did you see the fight where Jesse Ronson got the rear naked choke on Dalby? It was the one where anyway, long story short, it wasn't that exciting, but the reason why I'm bringing it up is because Jesse Ronson was a big underdog. So he was a plus 300 underdog at one point. So if you laid $100, you'd get 400 back.
Right.
You get your 100 plus the 300. Anyway, Jesse Ronson, rear naked choke. You know, it wasn't too much to say about it. He hurt him standing and then rear naked choked him. It was pretty good submission. Great underdog victory. I think Jesse Ronson definitely, you know, underrated. If you look at his record, he has 3 split decision losses and got cut. That's unfortunate. So anyway, had to bet this guy. All right, this guy next. We have to spend some time talking about this guy, Jim, because he's like the biggest star overnight. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Khamzat Chimaev, right? You saw this guy's fight, Khamzat.
Yeah, I saw this man's match. It wasn't much of a fight. It was more of a match. I mean, what can be said about this guy? I mean, he's the next superstar, I believe. You
know, Reese McKee wasn't like the biggest challenge for him, but at the same time, this guy's Cage Warriors, you know, I think he's a champion Cage Warriors. He's not a scrub. This is UFC debut, but man, like Dana White, when he did an interview on the whole Fight Island, like all of Fight Island, right, all of the recap, he spent like 10 minutes talking about this guy, and he didn't really even talk about people like Figueiredo and you know, Till. He spent like 10 minutes on Khamzat, and that means a lot. You know, that means, I mean, this guy's on a rocket ship basically. Like, his next fight, like, I've never seen a guy in his second UFC fight have odds at minus 1,200. You know what kind of odds are minus 1,200? That's like Ronda Rousey in her prime wasn't even, you know, 1,200. You know, John Jones isn't even 1,200. We're talking maybe Shevchenko right now is in the minus 1,000 range, depending on who she faces. But this guy, you know, pretty much unproven, is commanding those odds. So anyway, he rear naked chokes Reese McKee pretty easy. Can't bet him, obviously, because his odds are way too juiced at this point. You know.
Oh yeah.
You're spending $1,200 to win 100. I mean, come on, anything can happen. He could break his toe or something. You know. So you can't bet that, but yeah, I think just I don't have much to say about the guy. He just great wrestler, great submissions. And it seems like
his offense is so good. He has great defense too. In 2 fights, the stat that they showed, he's only been hit twice.
Yeah,
192 to 2.
Yeah. So from a betting standpoint, I'm only talking about it from a betting standpoint. You probably can't bet this guy anymore, as in like straight up money line.
I guess it just depends on. I mean, I found it pretty crazy, and it kind of raised a flag where they're comparing him to Usman or Reddy.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, man. It's like, slow down. I'm on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
But come on, man.
Yeah. You know, what I mean is, when you can't bet them at those odds, you can't bet them. It's too much of a risk.
Well, let me see. Let's play matchmaker for a second. You know, I think that could change with let's say if they put him in against
Robbie Lawler.
Robbie Lawler, thank you.
So
Robbie Lawler. What if they made that match? It's like, is he still that big favorite? You know, that you probably get some decent against Lawler.
No, he's not going to be minus 1,200, but he's going to be minus something. He's going to be minus 200-300 at least.
You put
because of the style matchup
and the age.
Robbie's not going to be able to. Yeah, Robbie. Yeah, I mean, at that point. So what I was getting at is that you can't bet this guy anymore, because if they're going to match him against somebody that's not on his level, his odds are going to be crazy juiced, and you can't take that risk. But if he's matched up against somebody who, you know, is a veteran who can potentially beat him, then you're betting an unproven guy at probably juiced odds as well. So what I would really do going forward, if I wanted to bet on a guy like Khamzat, is I would look at two things. I would look at his opponent. If he fights somebody like Lawler, and Lawler is a plus, 200, I'm betting Lawler.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about what's going to happen. I'm talking about the odds speak for themselves. A lot of times I don't bet, based off of who I think is going to win. I bet on where the value is, and that's how you try to win long term. You can't have emotional attachments to fighters, So anyway,
one little thing I want to add about how amazing his performance was that I haven't been hearing too much about that I think should be brought to the forefront is that he made his UFC debut. What was it? 10 days before that match, right? 10 days. Yeah. So one, it was the fastest turnaround
ever.
Outside the tournament format,
right?
And then two, when he made his debut, it was actually at middleweight.
Yeah.
And then after that fight, he dropped down
Cut to
15
welter.
Pounds, right, to welter. Now, I don't know if he fought at 185 per se, but
I think he did. I think he weighed in at 185.
Yeah. And then in those 10 days, didn't take a day off or anything. It's almost like he started cutting immediately.
Yeah, it was like clockwork. Just go right into. I mean, he's a smart guy because that's a story. That's a story. Who's doing that? Who wants to do that? Right. So let me finish what I was saying about you got to look at Khamzat's opponents in the future to see where you place a bet. But if you really, again, I tell people do not have emotional attachments to fighters. Otherwise, you're not going to be good at sports betting. What you can do is if you really do believe in him, if you do think his skill set is he's the truth, then you need to start looking at props, right? So prop would be like Khamzat wins via submission. Khamzat wins inside the distance. Khamzat wins in round 1. You need to start looking at those because those odds, depending on who he's fighting, it might be a very good. It might be a lot of value, right? So that's how I would bet him going forward. Either look at his opponent where he is too big of a favorite, or look at him for prop bets. Under 2.5 rounds, he wins in round 1. Things like that. All right, next. Another submission. I can't believe how many triangles this guy gets. Paul Craig and triangles has to be like synonymous now. This guy just hits the floor and triangles people. If you fight this guy and get triangled, I mean, come on, man. You how many triangles this guy has? This guy has to have 5 triangles in the UFC. And half of them are like, they look so fluky. They just look like people fall right in. And half of the people do fall right in. Like I could not believe that
he was staying in the party.
Yeah, I mean, Ante Gulov has like 20 or 15 submission wins in his career, and you lose by a guy that just seems to triangle everybody. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He got 7. Paul Craig, Bear Jew, has 7 triangle submissions in 13 wins. So, I mean, your whole camp should be either to avoid a position where you could be triangled.
Get on your feet.
Don't get put in close guard.
He followed him. He followed him in his guard, and I think he felt he was doing well because he cut him. It's
unbelievable.
And, there wasn't really a sense of urgency to get out of his guard.
Has 15 submissions in his wins in his career. So I don't know. It's just maybe Craig's. I don't really know what happened, but either way, I had a little money on Ante Gulov because he was the underdog and lost. So that was that. In the future, people need to start looking into Craig by submission. Craig by submission is a good prop to start thinking about. I don't think I'd ever bet Ante Gulov again. That was just the not great fighting IQ.
It was not good fighting IQ.
Yeah. So any person that has a poor top game, like they're not able to just immediately pass guard or something, or they just are like a wrestler. Craig probably should have been a much bigger favorite in this match, in hindsight. All right. Next match that had some grappling, Carla Esparza. Did you watch that one?
I did. Shout out to Carla. It was a tough fight.
Local fighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she was able to. I mean, you could see the discrepancy in class as far as the grappling. She was able to just get the takedowns virtually at will. I mean, she did get lumped up a little bit, but once it went there, that was her world. The ground control was beautiful.
Yeah. Carla is highly underrated in the women's UFC division. And the reason Carla is highly underrated is just she has had some poor performances and her body language isn't great, but her wrestling, I mean, I don't understand how she was a plus 185, I think. So I had a 1 unit bet on Carla that I placed pretty late because people kept betting Marina Rodriguez. And so I was looking at this like, I really think Marina's going to win, but again, you got to let the odds speak for themselves. And did I really think that Marina was going to win? Like towards the end, she was minus 200, something like 70% of the time. No, I didn't think. I thought it was at best a 55-45. At best she had a little advantage, maybe in the striking, and she could maybe stop the takedowns. As soon as she couldn't stop the takedowns, it was over. Like the fight was over. Carla did had all the control. I would even argue she did more of the damage too. She when you're on top striking, you're doing more damage than when you're on the bottom striking. So, good job, Carla, local fighter, won me some money, and that's that. Okay, Gustafson versus Verdum.
Man, this is
everybody put a little bit on Verdum. I think anybody that's a smart bettor put just a little bit on Verdum.
I didn't understand the odds at Gustafson coming in. This is his very first heavyweight fight against a guy who formerly held the title. Granted, he didn't look good in his last outing. He was coming off of some like a 15-month layoff.
Yeah.
So, I think people were jaded by Verdum's last performance, but I think they've forgotten what Verdum is at heavyweight, which is one of the best.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, Jim. I would say, if you're a bettor, if you're a sports bettor, you need to learn a lesson in this match. If you bet Gustafson, okay, I'm going to break it down right now. One is this is a heavyweight fight. Anytime a heavyweight fight goes over minus 200 as a favorite, your eyeballs need to widen. You need to be like, well, what's going on here? Why is this like a Francis and Ngannou fight or something? Why is this happening? Gustafson was minus 300, okay? So right then and there, based on my commandments of betting, I'm not betting this. No way. I'm not betting this. Not betting Gustafson, for sure. So that cuts one bet out of the equation. Now, maybe, if you think, Gustafson's going to finish him inside the distance, you might bet Gustafson inside the distance if it's good odds, right? But the odds were horrible. Didn't bet anything. Gustafson inside is out, okay? You cannot have Gustafson, and I just explained why. It's a heavyweight fight over the minus 200 limit that I have for myself. Here are more things that are even bigger red flags. Gustafson is weak to submissions. He got submitted by Anthony Smith, from the back. Anthony Smith, I don't think is on the level of Verdum. Verdum is 80cc champion. He's jiu-jitsu base. Gustafson is also moving up to heavyweight. This is his first fight. When people move up, especially to heavyweight, it just doesn't seem to end well for a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a fight on this card, Jake Collier against Tom Espinal, I think. If you saw the before and after of Jake Collier, you wouldn't believe your eyes. The guy went from light heavyweight to heavyweight, put on like 50 pounds of fat.
Ooh.
And
no, middleweight.
Oh, middleweight.
He used to fight,
he fought middleweight. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I mean, did you see the before and after picture of this guy? Immediately, I bet Tom Espinal inside the distance, put like 3 units on. Because I was like, when you see that, you're just like, does this guy have the motivation?
Something's going on, right.
I'm not saying Gustafson didn't have the motivation, but whenever you move up, and he came into the fight at like 240 or something like that. He was heavy. There's red flags. So right then, there's so many red flags on why you can't bet Gustafson. And I'm not saying even if he won, I would still have this exact same, thought process. What else? He's weak in submissions. He's moving up to heavyweight. He's never fought heavyweight. He just retired. He retired, I think, recently. I mean, that's a terror. Think about people who've retired and come back. How many people have been successful doing that in the UFC? GSP? Who else? Connor? Who else? Who's been successful retiring and coming back? The list is short.
Yeah, it's a very short list. I would say Randy Couture.
Example.
Who?
BJ Penn is the worst example. Retires, comes back, loses. Retires, comes back, loses.
Yeah, no, I would say Randy Couture. He did a short stint in retirement.
Randy was a
back.
successful, was a successful story, but
But the point
drugs.
is start the stories are far and few.
Yeah, it's more than likely it's the other way around. It's
Correct.
You lost motivation and you're here for a paycheck, or you're here to see if you still got it.
Correct.
And that's that. All right, reasons for betting Verdum in the future if you see a line like this. Verdum is a natural heavyweight. He's never fought outside of heavyweight, I don't believe. So Gustafson is entering his world, right? He's entering Verdum's world. Gustafson has never fought heavyweight. Verdum has been heavyweight his entire career. He's not doing anything different. Verdum is a great. He could be the greatest grappler in the heavyweight division of all time, right? Like, I mean,
arguably he's up there. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe Nogueira back
Kane, some people say Kane's wrestling, but
different grappling.
Thing,
yeah.
So,
when it comes to submissions,
submissions, Verdum is the greatest submission artist in the heavyweight division of all time, right? That's pretty unarguable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say him, and you could probably throw Nogueira in there.
Nogueira's up there, but I would even say Verdum submitted Nogueira.
Yeah, yeah.
Armbar
Nogueira. There you go.
So you got to say Verdum is probably number one.
Correct.
Right. So we already know that Verdum has a path to victory, right? Submission. I can stop right there. I can stop right there because Verdum was plus 270 for the most longest time. I think he closed at even higher, plus 280. So right then and there, I can stop. All right, Verdum has a path to victory, and he's a huge underdog. It's a heavyweight fight. We already talked about Gustafson's weaknesses. What else with Verdum? I bet Verdum by submission or by KO plus 500. I thought that was crazy at BetDSI. Plus 500. So you're saying that? I mean, we can just let the odds play for themselves. I think plus 500 is less than 15%, but. Let's see. Let's just look at the odds real quick, just to see what percentage you would give Verdum of hitting a submission or KO. I mean, I gotta say submission or KO should be at least 30% minimum, right? So at the number we said was plus 500. What is it? Let me see here. Why is this taking so long? There we go. 16, so it's a little more than 15%. So 16.7%, right? Would you say that in this fight, Verdum has a 16.7% chance of knocking out or submitting Gustafson? I think that's a very low percentage.
Yeah, consider his credentials, and for the record, I did pick Verdum for this one. I don't get all my picks right, but that one I was feeling very good about.
Yeah, so here's another betting tip for people. If I was just so confident that Verdum was gonna, if Verdum was gonna win, he was gonna probably win by sub or KO. I just didn't know he would. I thought Gus would win the decision if it went to decision. Here's another betting tip. I don't recommend usually people bet props when the fighter you're betting on is already a large underdog. So Verdum was already plus 280, 270, 280.
No need to compound it with a prop.
Exactly, because what if Verdum wins by submission? By decision. What if he wins, but then you lose, right?
Yeah.
So most of my money was on the Verdum, win, and then a little bit of it was on sub or KO, and I came out pretty well. I did bet. We don't have to cover this fight, but I did end up betting Till, which was not people say some people say he could have been robbed, but I don't agree.
No, too close for a robbery. Plus, I had Whitaker. I think I had Whitaker. And before we move on, shout out to a friend of the family, Mike Safai. He's a strength and conditioning coach for both Verdum and Esparza. So good on him. Congratulations, Mike, on your team's win on that weekend.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they both won. Pretty convincingly, too. All right. So that was the weekend recap. So me and Jim, I'll continuously try to give out some betting tips here and there because I do want to advance the economy of the sport, and it's fun. So let's get into now, Jim, the breaking news.
So this coming Friday, we had the Who's Number One coming up.
Yep, this Friday's still going on.
It is still going on with the headliners. Gordon Ryan versus Ronaldo Jr.
Not anymore.
But the breaking news is, go ahead.
So Gordon Ryan and Craig Jones apparently have COVID symptoms, and they are out this week. So if you guys are reading my betting analysis, it will be revised hopefully today. Gary Tonen and Dante Leone is the new main event, and they're working on, I believe, Hulk. They're working on getting him a new match, and also Ronaldo is now going to face Vagner Rocha, which is pretty exciting. Shout out to Vagner Rocha for stepping up on essentially 1 day notice, basically. He probably has to start driving right now or flying right now, so he's got to get there, weigh in by Thursday. I mean, what a competitor, you know. So Vagner versus Ronaldo Jr. now is the new co-main, or maybe co-main. It's going to be one of the matches, and then they're working on Hulk. I don't really know who they could replace. I mean, maybe they got to do a rematch with Lovato with no gi. You know, that would be crazy. So that's that. Okay. Obviously, we don't need to cover the matches that aren't happening. So let's just cover the match. Let's start from the main event then, since we know that match is happening, right? So the main event is
so real quick.
Yeah.
Wait, who was replacing Craig Jones? Because he was scheduled.
There's
to fight
no
Hulk,
there's
right?
no replacement yet.
Oh, not yet.
So
Okay.
they're working on a fight for Hulk.
For Hulk, gotcha.
Lucas Barboza,
Gotcha.
who is Hulk. All right. So Gordon Ryan, Ronaldo Jr. not happening. Gary Tonen versus Dante Leone. Okay, so I did do a write-up on this. Hopefully, we need to contact the betting sites and the odds makers and make sure that they get these corrections out soon. But 15-minute sub only. Judges' decision using the fight to win scoring. Gary has already faced Dante once and won by I think it was outside heel hook or something. It was a heel hook for sure. And that usually is a sign that the winner should probably be a quite large favorite, unless there's a big change in the rule set or there's something gi to no gi or something like that. But in this match, although there is a change in the rule set, I think the change in rule set actually benefits Gary, right? Because it went from ADCC rules, which is a points tournament, to a submission-only format.
No time limit.
There is time limit, 15 minutes.
Oh, 15?
Yeah. Only you know what? You're right. It may be no time limit.
I don't know. I just assumed they were going to adopt the current main event.
Yeah, you know what? That actually is a good point. I mean, I would assume that both Gary and Dante would have to agree to that, and I'm 100% sure Gary would agree to that.
Yeah, I don't see any of them saying no.
I don't know if Dante would agree to that. I will be honest, if I were him, I would not agree to that because why would you? Gary is one of the best defensive grapplers in the world. You do not want a situation where you're forced to submit this guy. And that's just being honest. It's just the truth. If I was Dante, I would look to aggressively blitz Gary with submissions, threaten him with all kinds of things, and then look to just be on the attack at all times. If I was Dante and Dante could get to a dominant position on Gary and just threaten a submission, put a 5-point submission threat up there, I mean he may win the match. That might be enough. And just avoid Gary's submissions. But either way, I don't like this match for Dante. I have an idea of how he could win, and but Gary is just his defense. Gary's defense. The last time he's been submitted was by Shoeface, Antonio Carlos Jr. You know that guy? He's in the UFC. He's huge.
No. Last time Gary was submitted was ADCC.
Yeah, but you're right, Gordon. But I'm not counting that. I mean, he faced his teammate Gordon. It was ADCC. And Gordon. Yeah, you're right. Gordon did submit him at ADCC, but who knows? Gordon's just in another league, and they're teammates. They're not going to fight again. So. The point I was making was the last time he got submitted was by Antonio Carlos Jr., who flying triangled him in 2017. And it was like a 50 to 60 pound advantage, I think. It might have been more. It might have been like 80 pounds, because at that time Gary was smaller, and I think Antonio Carlos was like, a light heavyweight or something. It was crazy. Either way, Dante is not Antonio Carlos Jr.'s size. Okay, Dante has a great guillotine. He has great submissions, but his weakness is leg locks, and you do not want to have a weakness to leg locks when it comes to Gary Tonen.
Any of these Danaher guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is just not the greatest match for Dante. He can win, but I still say Gary has. I set my own lines here. I gave Gary an implied probability of 74% as an opener, minus 285, and then Dante 31% implied probability to win, plus 225. I predicted Gary is going to win by submission, probably leg lock. To be honest, it's either going to be a leg lock or a choke. When it comes to Gary, he doesn't really do anything except those two things. He does have a good front choke. He has a good rear naked choke, great leg locks. He has good Kimuras, but I don't really see him using Kimuras as a finisher. He uses more to position himself. And so, yeah, that's it. Any thoughts on that one?
No.
New main event?
Well, no. In fact, I want to just kind of speak on the outside of the event and just kind of how this pandemic is still affecting our culture. And it's yet another reminder of, being careful, because I understand there are some states where, they're perfectly allowed to open up their gyms and maintain and continue with their grappling journey and everything. But this right here, no matter where you stand on it, I think it at the very least should serve as a reminder. Just be careful out there, and if you are rolling, take those extra precautions to sanitize immediately after rolling.
Yeah. So we should be clear. Gordon and Craig pulled themselves out, I believe, because they were experiencing COVID symptoms, right? Which, in this day and age, basically means you probably have it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
you treat it as if you do, right?
Yeah, you treat it as if you. So they pulled themselves out, which was the responsible thing to do. Mm-hmm. For all the stuff that Gordon has been criticized over, when it came down to it, he did do the right thing. Like, he didn't have to tell me. He could just. I mean, he would have been sick, but he did the right thing. So, props to Gordon for doing that, and Craig. And so, hopefully, this doesn't put Craig's Submission Underground fight in jeopardy at the end of the month, but that's still, we still had like
he shouldn't, right, shouldn't. If he even still wants to compete in it, because through this he's going to lose at least a couple weeks.
I'm sure he.
Of training
time.
time.
I think he would. I think he would. And so, well, they can just train with each other.
There you
they
go.
Probably have. What is surprising is that Gary doesn't have it. Which is weird. This is the surprising thing, is that if they've all trained together, then who knows?
Yeah.
All right. So. So that we know for a fact that match is still happening. It's the main event. I was told by Seth, and I think it's been broke by now, that Ronaldo Jr.'s opponent is Vagner Rocha. So Vagner Rocha steps in to face Ronaldo. I haven't really thought about this fight at all. We haven't done the write-up. I'm going to do it after this and set the lines. But you have to give you have to give Vagner the even short notice, I think, a slight edge here, just because Vagner is a no-gi specialist. Vagner is a fight to win veteran. Vagner is ADCC silver medalist. He's just off the top of my head, I would give Vagner. I would go Vagner minus 180, something in that neighborhood. And I would give Ronaldo plus 150. This is a much more winnable match for Ronaldo, but I still think Vagner is going to be the favorite. I have to see the rules set also. I'm not sure. It'll probably be a 15-minute match then, I'm guessing, with judge's decision. And Vagner is he's just I think more of a submission-only guy than Ronaldo. Ronaldo's more of an IBJJF guy, and so I gotta give the advantage to Vagner here. We'll do the article and send the lines later. But yeah, that's it's unfortunate that the matchups had to change, but I actually think this is going to be a much more competitive matchup. Gordon and Ronaldo, they're not really even in the same weight class. So all right.
Well, let me throw this out at you, since Lucas doesn't have an opponent yet.
Not yet. Let me see.
Not
While
yet.
You talk, I will check.
But hypothesizing here and seeing how there seems to be some very familiar heads that are popping up on all of these events during these times, Let me offer one, Nikki Rod. You have Lucas at plus 200 right now against Craig Jones.
Yep.
Let's just say, what if they happen to get Nikki Rod as his opponent? Does he now go into the minus category, Lucas?
You're saying betting odds.
Betting odds, yeah.
Yes, for sure. Lucas Barboza against Nikki Rod. Lucas is going to be a decent favorite, I think, and just because. I mean, Nikki Rod is not Craig Jones.
He's not, but man, so explosive, so fun to watch. It'd be a fun, as far as entertainment value, fun. I just kind of wanted. I was looking at your betting lines.
Yeah,
it's like, here's a situation where the underdog could now possibly be the favorite, and seeing how all these events, Third Coast, Fight to Win, you see Nikki Rod popping up as well.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, that's a great. You should suggest that to Seth, Jim. But I think you're right. If
and they're all the Craig Jones, Gordon Ryan, Nikki Rod, they're all teammates. It's like, here you go.
Makes sense. Just they wouldn't have Gordon and Craig. They would just have Nikki Rod and
Gary.
Yeah, they should get Nikki Ryan down here to face Ronaldo. Actually, that would have been.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one as well.
Probably too late for
all
that.
kinds of fun.
But so Lucas Barboza Hulk would be a favorite against almost anybody except for. I can probably name off the top of my head the people he would be underdog against, and it would be Craig Jones, it would be Gordon Ryan, it would be people that are just way bigger than him. Like if he were to face like Victor Hugo or something, then he would be an underdog. Or Buchecha or something.
But anybody, super heavies.
Yeah, but anybody that doesn't have a submission heavy game and like an impassable guard, he's going to kill these people. He beat Lovato. Recently. I mean, who's beating Lovato?
Right, yeah. Holt's no joke, man. But stylistically, how fun would that match be? Two very aggressive styles going at it.
That would be a great match. I don't even know what's going to happen.
That'd be great.
I actually think that would be probably 3 or 4 times more exciting than Hulk versus Craig Jones. Because Craig Jones, honestly, it's very possible that what we see if we were to see this match is just Hulk stifled passing Craig's guard and Craig just playing distance and trying to enter leg locks. We might see that for 15 minutes. That's very possible. Mm-hmm. So I actually think Hulk versus somebody like a Nikki Rod would be a more exciting match. Yeah, maybe somebody reach out to Nikki Rod. More than likely, though, Seth is probably going to have to get like a local guy. Mm-hmm. I just don't see even Vagner is somewhat local. I think right. He's more local than some people. I think Florida is close. All right. So
there we go. So we have the lines.
One more match.
Oh, okay,
Jim. So I believe the women's match is still happening. So we'll just cover quickly. Elizabeth Clay and Maggie Grindotti. So what's weird is that Maggie Grindotti is Cyborg's girlfriend, right? So maybe they should bring in Cyborg to face somebody. Who knows? Either way, Maggie is a new black belt. Taking on Elizabeth, brown belt. And I think Elizabeth is fight to win champion right now. So Elizabeth is on a tear. I mean, she's undefeated in the last. I don't know. Maybe she's undefeated in all fight to win, but she just heel hooked Luisa Montero. She beat Kendall. She beat. There was another girl she beat also by heel hook. I mean, she's a big star. This is the girl that won 80cc trials as a 16-year-old blue belt. So. I mean, this isn't like somebody that just came out of nowhere. It's like somebody who's been around, and she's getting the leg locks. I do think that Maggie is probably going to be the best athlete that Elizabeth Clay has ever faced. She was a D1 athlete. She's got all this fitness stuff on her page. She looks in shape. She looks strong. But yeah, it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna be enough to avoid the leg lock. Luisa, you don't want to do this kind of math stuff, but Luisa Montero heel hooked Maggie. It was in the gi, but it was a heel hook, right? And then Luisa got heel hooked by Elizabeth. Usually you don't want to use these kind of math things, MMA math, grappling.
Jiu-Jitsu math,
But
right.
the thing is, in jiu-jitsu, you have to think about it like this. If somebody has the skill to catch somebody in a submission, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. We're not talking about, this is not the same in MMA. If you can beat me, Jim, and I can beat, somebody, the chance of you being able to beat that somebody in jiu-jitsu is much higher than like in MMA, because
less variables.
There's less variables. Yeah. If you're the better grappler, that's why I tell people, grappling's betting lines will eventually tighten up to boxing. It's because the better boxer is just, there's less things that can happen, right? In MMA, if I can't beat you standing, I can push you against the fence and I can beat you, at that game.
And if I can't do that, maybe I'm a better kicker.
You're exactly.
And I'm going to just kick your leg out.
I could strategize and beat you. In jiu-jitsu, there's less, like if you're just better than me, there's less strategies that I can do to overcome you. If the skill gap is just too much.
I will say but like anything else, I will say that there are stylistic considerations though.
Yeah. So the rules set and the style matter a lot.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Like, here's an example, right? Gordon Ryan, maybe in the beginning of his career, was beating grapplers that were better than him because he had technology that they didn't have. They didn't understand what he was doing. That was early in his career. I think now, technically, he has used that technological advantage to now not only catch up to these other top-level guys in technique, he has overcome a lot of these guys. So his technique is now on level. Now he's passing guard.
Yeah, he's such a complete grappler at this point.
Yeah, so my point was that it can happen. A lesser grappler can beat a more skilled grappler if they had technology or tricks or some kind of invention which at that time for Gordon was leg locks. People didn't understand leg locks. But it was like a perfect storm. It was a great strategy. I think they planned it perfectly. It can happen. But once you hit the highest level and there are people who, it just, the math thing does kind of work when you're talking about jiu-jitsu because of what you said, the variables. So anyway, I don't see Elizabeth losing here. I set her at minus 300. I see her getting leg lock submission in it's only 8-minute match though, so the chances of her winning by decision are also pretty high. Maggie is going to need to overcome a lot. I mean, I don't know how she's going to beat Elizabeth, somebody who's survived much higher level competitors and beat them. So who knows? Maggie could get it done, but I will probably be placing a bet on Elizabeth. And also, I believe if Gary's odds aren't just juiced through the roof, I'm probably going to bet Gary, and I'm probably going to bet I got to see the odds, but I would probably bet Vagner as well, just based off of what I think Vagner brings to the table. It is risky. I may have to avoid that fight because of the last minute notice, and then just there's a lot of variables here we're not thinking about.
Yeah, at least between the time of this recording and the actual event, we're on a Tuesday now, and we're talking Friday.
Yeah, like if Vagner comes out as an underdog, it's 100% I'm betting him. Even plus 100, even evens, I'm betting him for sure. But we'll see. All right, so
Coach.
Breaking, that was breaking news. Maybe not by the time this comes out, but that's it. That's all we got for who's number one. Hope everybody has a good week. And again, what was there's a link on our betting analysis at the bottom. You can click on the 5 Dimes link, and you can make an account, give us some sponsorship dollars.
Yeah, give us some love and make some money yourself.
Oh, it's Sportbet. Sportbet is 5 Dimes. Sportbet
it's all
and
same.
5 Dimes are
same thing. Mm-hmm.
If there's no lines on there, no problem. Create the account. They'll be up there. Maybe next event. But the lines for this event will probably be on BetDSI for sure, and then Bet Online. So just remember that. Tell your online offshore bookies, even local bookies, to offer the betting lines. Show them our article, and that's it.
All right, Coach. Once again, thanks again for the breakdown. It was fun talking some MMA this time as well. And until next time, man, take care.
We will be bringing more, Coach Ben episodes, but right now we're driving this ship, and we want to make it successful.
Yeah, and here in California, there's not much training going on.
Yeah, we ain't training, so
So, all right, guys. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Thanks, Coach.